Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Authorities in the Indian capital territory of Delhi say that a local truck driver is in hot water this week after he allegedly filed a false police report related to the staged theft of his own vehicle. According to reports, the whole thing began on April 19th when the driver in question, identified only as a 42-year-old man named Mukesh, walked into a police station in northwest Delhi district. Once there, he asked to file a report saying that his truck had been stolen. Mukesh stated that the previous night he had left the vehicle in a parking lot in nearby Hamidpur village for the night. When he returned, the truck was gone. At the time, Mukesh said he was hauling a bunch of scrap copper worth an estimated 5 million rupees, or about $60,000 US. After launching an investigation, police discovered Mukesh's truck was missing. However, they quickly became suspicious of the 42-year-old himself, especially when they took a look at his phone and discovered that he deleted all of his call logs. His search history was even more incriminating. On the same day the truck went missing, Mukesh had searched for how to file a fraudulent police report. Upon being brought in again for questioning, the 42-year-old allegedly confessed that he had staged the whole crime with an acquaintance named Bablu. The pair had planned for Mukesh to leave his truck in the parking lot, after which Bablu would steal the vehicle and sell off the scrap copper. The pair had also agreed to split the proceeds, with Mukesh receiving about 950,000 rupees in cash so far. The 42-year-old said he wanted easy money, which he planned to gamble on cricket betting websites. At the time of this recording, police say that 900,000 rupees has been recovered and that Mukesh remains in custody. It's unclear whether his alleged accomplice has yet been arrested. Authorities in the Scottish Council area of Renfrewshire say that a 30-year-old suspect is facing a number of charges this week following a strange and terrifying incident in which police were chased down a street in broad daylight by a man wielding a chainsaw. The whole thing unfolded on May 6th in the town of Paisley. So far, it's unclear how the incident actually started, though according to several local sources, it began sometime around 1 p.m. following a vehicle crash. During that collision, a Volkswagen allegedly smashed into a stationary police car, sending it barreling into a concrete garden wall on Glasgow Road. Moments later, a man was seen by witnesses chasing officers down the street with a chainsaw in his hand. While 2 officers were wounded during the ordeal, thankfully it appears the injuries weren't that serious. The suspect was quickly swarmed by other police who arrived in the area, and he was tackled to the ground and arrested outside a nearby dental office. The 30-year-old suspect has since been identified as a local man named Liridon Castrati, who is now facing charges including attempted murder, breach of the peace, and being in possession of an offensive weapon in a public place, as well as several traffic offenses. At the time of this recording, no motive has been released behind the bizarre incident, though authorities say that they do not believe the crime was terror-related. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the South Korean capital of Seoul say that a 25-year-old man is facing murder charges this week after he was accused of stabbing his girlfriend to death, a crime that allegedly took place after she tried to end their relationship. The case began at around 5 p.m. on May 6th when police were informed about a dangerous situation unfolding in the city's Socho district. Multiple witnesses called to say that they had seen a man standing at the top of a 15-story building. It looked like he was working up the nerve to jump. Officers responded to the scene quickly and were able to get to the man in time. The man, who was later identified as a 25-year-old by the last name of Choi, was then taken to safety. However, things took a dark turn just a short time later when authorities returned to the rooftop to collect a bag that Choi told them that he had left there. A more thorough examination of the scene revealed the body of a woman who had been stabbed to death. While the woman's name has not been released at the time of this recording, police say that she had been in a romantic relationship with Choi. The 25-year-old was arrested and, when questioned about what had happened, allegedly told police that he killed his girlfriend after she tried to break up with him. Authorities now claim the murder was premeditated, as they have recovered evidence showing that the knife used in the crime was purchased by Choi roughly 2 hours beforehand. While the murder itself was senseless and tragic, it seems that Choi additionally ruined his own promising life in the process. The 25-year-old is a student at a prestigious medical school in Seoul and had gotten in after receiving a perfect score on his college scholastic ability test, a state-run entrance exam that, according to local sources, is widely perceived as one of the most critical tests for students in South Korea. At the time of this recording, Choi remains in custody. Authorities in the Australian state of Queensland say that 2 people have been charged with murder as well as multiple other serious offenses this week, several days after a man was found under horrifying circumstances at a rural property. The whole thing began at around 8:30 p.m. on May 1st, when Queensland police were directed to an address on Maclean Road in the town of Mount Mee, located about 35 miles northwest of Brisbane. Officers had been called about a possible assault at the residence. However, when they arrived, they realized that the situation was far more serious. Somewhere outside of a house on the property, they found a man who was suffering from critical wounds to his head, as well as other gruesome injuries. He was barely clinging to life and had been partially buried where police found him. The man, who has now been identified as 23-year-old nurse Sam Wilcox, was rushed to a hospital for treatment. Sadly, it was here that he would ultimately die of his injuries 2 days later. At the same time that police made the awful discovery at the Maclean Road residence, they reportedly arrested 2 people in connection with the case: 21-year-old Bella Louise Scheibel and 23-year-old Cooper Bunny. It's now alleged that Scheibel and Bunny assaulted and held Sam Wilcox captive for a period of at least 3 days before police were called. Specifically, the pair are accused of using fencing wire to strangle and restrain Sam while attacking him, with detectives saying that the, quote, injuries occurred over a reasonably prolonged period of time. Court records state that Scheibel and Bunny are further accused of shooting Sam with an illegal shotgun before burying him alive where he was found by police. While the pair were initially charged with attempted murder, those charges were upgraded following Sam's death. In addition to murder, the 2 have now been slapped with offenses including assault, deprivation of liberty, and grievous bodily harm, among others. At the time of this recording, no motive has been confirmed behind the heinous crime, though police did say that the suspects were known to Sam and that it is not believed that the killing was the result of a domestic situation. In this same statement, authorities acknowledged that drugs were a line of investigation that they were actively pursuing. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the Thai province of Sukhothai say that they are investigating an elderly Buddhist monk this week, one who allegedly injured several children after convincing them to take part in a bizarre experiment that he said was designed to test the power of his magic amulets. The whole thing took place sometime recently at the Kaure Temple in Thung, Saliam district. According to reports, a 13-year-old boy named Pong was there playing with a few of his friends one afternoon when they were approached by one of the temple monks, a 70-year-old by the name of Boonsong. Boonsong asked the kids if they were interested in making a little bit of money. He offered them 200 baht, or about $5 USD each, if they would help him to test out some of his amulets. The 70-year-old said that the amulets, which he referred to as miracle Buddhas, were supposed to have magical properties, which included healing powers. In order to make sure, though, he wanted to run a little experiment. After Pong and his friends accepted the money, Boonsong apparently had each of them hold one of the amulets in their hand. He then poured acid on the backs of this same hand, presumably to see what happened. In a result that will likely surprise 0 people listening, all of the kids ended up with chemical burns on their hands. While the elderly monk simply chalked this up to a failed experiment, understandably, the parents of Pong and his friends saw the situation quite a bit differently. They went to the temple to confront Boonsong, who apparently refused to speak with them. That's when they went to the police and the media. After an investigation was launched, temple officials apparently offered to cover the medical costs of the victims, though of course, that wasn't really the point. The parents wanted Boonsong to admit that what he did was wrong, which he so far has reportedly still refused to do. As if all of this wasn't wild enough, when the story was covered on the local news, many people apparently took Boonsong's side and blamed the parents. On social media, a number of people complained that the children were ruining the temple's reputation, and said that, actually, magical amulets really were a thing. Thankfully, it appears that police at least are taking the situation seriously. At the time of this recording, Boonsong is still under investigation, and the parents of his victims say that they are currently in the process of suing him as well. A middle-aged Japanese government worker recently found himself on the receiving end of both professional and legal consequences, following a bizarre incident in which he allegedly flew into a rage at his office and attacked a fellow employee because he spoiled a plot point in a popular graphic novel series. The whole thing took place earlier this year at the Uji branch of the Kyoto District Legal Affairs Bureau. The government office is usually responsible for handling legal paperwork for things like real estate transactions and the filing of new business documents. However, on February 1st, the bureau played host to some decidedly unlawful conduct, when one of its managers allegedly went full beast mode on a subordinate. According to reports, the problems began when the junior employee, identified only as a man in his 20s, was discussing some of the latest plot points about the popular manga series Oshinoko. For those unfamiliar, manga are a form of comics or graphic novels featuring uniquely Japanese art styles. Anyway, the junior employee was in the middle of talking about this with others when a manager at the office, identified only as a man in his 50s, overheard. He hadn't yet read the latest chapters of Oshinoko and was apparently so angry about the spoilers that he flew into a rage, one that ended with him grabbing his subordinate by the chest and kicking him in the torso. Although the younger employee wasn't really injured, the manager's behavior was still unhinged enough that it was understandably reported to both higher-ups at the office and the police. The 50-something-year-old was apparently transferred after this and is currently facing assault charges. At the time of this recording, the case still has yet to go to court. Authorities in the Chinese province of Yunnan say that 2 people are dead this week and nearly 24 others are injured, following a disturbing knife attack at a hospital. The situation unfolded at 11:37 a.m. on May 7th, when the suspect, identified only as a 40-year-old man, reportedly entered a building on the south campus of the People's Hospital, located in Zhenxiong County. While it's unclear exactly how the situation started, multiple local sources have stated that the suspect began stabbing and slashing at everyone in his path, causing terrified patients, doctors, and hospital staff to run for their lives. A photo taken from a surveillance camera inside shows the suspect holding knives in each hand, while another man attempts to protect himself with a stick in the building's lobby. Police quickly responded to the situation, though sadly by the time they arrived it was still too late for some of the victims. 2 people were pronounced dead, while a further 21 were treated for injuries. The suspect, meanwhile, was placed under arrest. At the time of this recording, few additional details are available about the situation, and it appears that the Chinese government is actively scrubbing information from news sites within the country. Some of that information appears to be related to the alleged motive behind the crime. Obviously, given the situation, nothing has actually been confirmed, though at least one outlet briefly published a report that contained a comment from the alleged suspect's cousin. The cousin stated that the 40-year-old used to be a pretty normal guy, but had changed following a 3-year prison sentence. Apparently, he was involved in a dispute over a motorcycle transaction that resulted in multiple people being injured, and was convicted of causing intentional injury in 2013. The cousin went on to say that when the 40-year-old was released, he felt that he had been wronged and held a grudge about what had happened to him. The report containing this information was later deleted from Chinese news platforms. Currently, the situation is still said to be under investigation, and none of the names of the victims have been released. The family and friends of 2 Australian brothers and an American man have been left completely devastated this week after their bodies were recovered under disturbing circumstances several days after they vanished. According to reports, the heartbreaking situation started out as what was supposed to be a trip of a lifetime for the victims. It began when 13-year-old Jake Robinson flew from Australia to visit his 33-year-old brother Callum, who had been living in the United States for several years. The brothers, who were both avid surfers, planned to head down the coast of Mexico's Baja California Peninsula. hitting as many great beach spots as they could along the way. Their friend, 30-year-old Jack Carter Rode, joined them, and also supplied the white pickup truck that the three used for the drive. At first, the trip was everything that the men had hoped. They posted pictures of themselves to social media for several days, accompanied by excited captions about the places they were going and the things that they had experienced. However, things took a dark turn when those posts abruptly stopped on April 27th. At the same time, friends and family members were no longer able to reach them. When Callum, Jake, and Jack failed to check in at their previously scheduled Airbnb, concerns were raised even further, and a search was launched. Using the missing men's social media posts, authorities were able to retrace their steps to a popular surfing spot called La Bocana, near the town of Santo Tomás. It was here that police would encounter a chilling scene. It was an abandoned campsite where Jake, Callum, and Jack had clearly been staying. Close by were the charred remnants of tents, a campfire, and several personal items belonging to the men. Even more unsettling was Jack's burnt-out pickup truck, which was found not far away. Though there were still hopes that the three would be found safe, these were destroyed on May 3rd when everyone's worst fears were confirmed. A few miles from the previously discovered campsite, authorities found several bodies that had been thrown down a 15-foot well. 3 of those bodies were confirmed to be those of Jack, Jake, and Callum, while a 4th belonged to a victim unrelated to the case. All 3 of the missing men had died from gunshot wounds to the head. Thanks to cell data, investigators were able to track down at least one of the men's phones, which was found to be in the possession of a 23-year-old woman named Ari Giselle Garcia Cota. She was arrested along with her partner, Jesus Gerardo Garcia Cota, as well as Jesus' brother, Cristian Alejandro Garcia. The 3 were apparently found in possession of methamphetamine and other drugs at the time of their arrests, and each is now facing charges related to the disappearances and murders of Jake, Jack, and Callum. At the time of this recording, the investigation into the incident is still ongoing, though authorities have said that they believe the killings were the result of an attempted robbery gone wrong. Specifically, it's alleged that the 3 suspects tried to steal the tires and other vehicle parts from Jack's pickup truck, and when he and the Robinson brothers tried to stop them, they resorted to murder. Understandably, the crime has left friends and family members of the victims saddened and outraged at the violence. However, they aren't the only ones who have been vocal about the situation. In the wake of the men's bodies being discovered, a group of at least 500 protesters who live in the local area took to the streets to demand that more be done about ensuring the safety of both residents and tourists. The protesters carried surfboards in honor of the victims, ones that were covered in slogans written in Spanish that read things like, quote, "They only wanted to surf. We demand safe beaches," and "Australia, we are with you." While not much has unfortunately been released about the American victim in the case, Jack Rode, in the days following the tragic announcement, details have been shared about Callum and Jake. Jake was a doctor who was looking forward to starting a new job back in Australia after visiting his brother, and Callum was a professional lacrosse player, one who was described as extremely kind and generous with his time, especially when it came to volunteering with and helping to coach younger athletes. Callum was supposed to celebrate turning 33 while on the road trip, but was killed just shy of his 33rd birthday. In a statement made by Callum and Jake's parents, their mother thanked everyone for the support that they had received during this awful time. She also said that she and her husband were proud of the lives that their sons had built, encouraging those who loved them to, quote, "Please live bigger, shine brighter, and love harder in their memory." Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.